When the PlayStation Portal was first announced, I was skeptical, just like most of the internet out there. I thought to myself, why would I spend $199 USD to get a streaming only device? See, I have plenty of handhelds in my possession and I test them all and I compare them all the time, but with this, it was just a streaming only device. There was a reason why I skipped over the Logitech G Cloud. I didn't see any need for a streaming only device. See, streaming games overall has been kind of hit or miss. We all know what happened with Stadia, and when it comes to it, really only xCloud delivers the best experience, and even then there are still some issues that I run into from time to time. So whenever I tried using the remote play functionality on the PlayStation, it always left a lot to be desired. See, I had the backbone and I tried that while I was traveling and it didn't work. There were always issues that were happening. So when the PlayStation Portal was announced, you can understand why I was skeptical. When I ordered it, I was thinking, well, you know what? I'll make a video on it and I'll see whether or not this is something that's worth it. I understand now, after having this for about a week more or less, that this is the DadStation 5. See, I'm a dad and I'm a family man. When it comes down to it, if my kid or my wife or anyone that's inside of my house wants to watch television, they can do that. So this kind of feels a little bit kind of like a glorified Wii U tablet, but there's so much more that goes into this. And really what I wanted to go ahead and show in this video is that there are pros and cons to this. And this is something that actually does have a space in the market. See, there's a lot of people that are on the internet right now that are going to say, well, this isn't worth it. This is a product that doesn't even matter. And at the end of the day, this might not work for you, but there are instances where I'm actually glad that I do have this PlayStation Portal. This video is sponsored by Satisfy. I've been using my Steam Deck sort of as a pseudo PlayStation Portal using an app called Chiaki. It's done a great job in terms of letting me play on the go, and as long as there's a strong and fast Wi-Fi connection or network connection, it does wonders. I keep my Steam Deck though protected using a case from a company called Satisfy. I use their Stealth Grip, which does a phenomenal job not only protecting the Steam Deck, but also enhancing your gameplay using their notch extensions and their rise pads. So protect your Steam Deck using the Stealth Grip from Satisfy. And thanks to Satisfy for sponsoring this video. Throughout the video, I am going to be comparing the PlayStation Portal to using a cell phone with a backbone attachment to it. I may mention the Chiaki app that is readily available across multiple platforms, but the main ones that I want to compare are the backbone and the PlayStation Portal. The reason being is Chiaki requires a little bit of assembly when it comes to actually connecting your PlayStation to whatever device it is that you're streaming to, whereas the PlayStation Portal and using PS Remote Play on a cell phone with a backbone is as simple as just logging in and making sure that everything is up and running and that you're on a proper network. Your average consumer isn't going to be looking at, I don't know, a Steam Deck, ROG Ally, or whatever it is that you have and installing Chiaki on there. They're probably going to be looking at the PlayStation Portal or just getting a backbone. The unboxing experience was pretty straightforward. You pretty much have a box within a box, and then after that you have the PlayStation Portal, and hidden underneath the cover of that second box was the USB-C to USB-C cable, which is primarily used for charging. When it comes to the PlayStation Portal itself, it's exactly as people said. They essentially went ahead and took a DualSense controller, they split it into, and they put a screen smack dab in the middle. Now, obviously, there are some differences between a regular DualSense and using the PlayStation Portal. For instance, the analog sticks are slightly smaller when you compare them to the DualSense analog sticks. And I also want to go ahead and say that the PlayStation as well as the mic button are in two different locations. The PlayStation button is next to the share button that's right here, and the mic button is next to the options button that's there. In terms of the D-pad and the face buttons, they are exactly as they should be. They feel exactly the same, and they are the same sizes. Same thing goes for the haptic triggers that are over here. In terms of the actual buttons that are here, you have your volume buttons, your up and down, and then over here you have your connect button, which is for connecting to a PS Link headset. This is something that isn't out in the wild yet, and I'm still kind of hesitant in terms of whether or not I want to even get it for this channel. But over here you also have your power button. If you go ahead and you hold that down, what's going to pop up is your reset and your power off button. On the back side, hidden all the way over here, you have your USB-C port for charging, as well as a 3.5mm jack, which is necessary for getting a headset to work because there is no Bluetooth connectivity on this handheld. Now, I do want to go ahead and mention that Sony isn't the only one that's guilty of not having Bluetooth support. Xbox also does not have Bluetooth support. The only company that actually does support Bluetooth, unironically, is actually Nintendo. Nintendo, you can actually use Bluetooth headphones with their Nintendo Switch and get things running from there. The screen itself is actually gorgeous. I love the colors that are represented over here. It actually has a pretty wide color gamut. I'm a bit picky when it comes to screens themselves, as many have already seen me compare the ROG Ally with the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck just has horrible colors in their LCD model. I'm very excited to get the OLED model and compare that in contrast to everything else. But in terms of this honestly, it's hard to tell that it even is an LCD screen. Now, because it is an LCD screen, you can see it's very reflective of colors. Also, in terms of brightness, if you take this outside, you might have some difficulty in terms of the brightness of the screen itself. This is definitely something that I would recommend for somebody to play indoors or in not super bright environment, just because it might get washed out or you might not see whatever is happening right then and there. In terms of the touchpads, it's definitely something that is weird because sometimes it'll go ahead and it'll register and sometimes it just won't. I do like the fact that the touchpads are essentially right over here, but at the end of the day, it is going to cause a lot of fingerprints to pop up. So if you're in a really shiny area where there's a lot of reflection, those fingerprints are going to stick out without a doubt. In order to access the settings here, you actually have to kind of like swipe from the top right hand corner and go down to settings. Here you have your network, system, display and brightness, and controller, and then signing out. With network, you can go ahead and configure the settings that are needed to connect to your Wi-Fi network. One thing that I don't like about this is that you can't manually connect to your 5 gigahertz connection. You actually have to set that up on your router side. So if your router has the capability of getting this only onto your 5 gigahertz band, then you have to go for it. That's really the only way that you can have a seamless experience in terms of streaming without any hiccups, or at least the least amount of hiccups. In system, you are going to have your option to update your software, change the languages, date and time, and then power saving options, which essentially puts this into rest mode after a certain amount of time. You have options from 30 seconds all the way up to 5 minutes and beyond. Now, when it comes to display brightness, you can change the brightness of not only the screen, but also the little light bars that are on the side. This is really just mainly to save battery and extend that battery as long as possible. Same thing goes with the mute button. And then the controller itself, you can change the vibration and trigger intensity. And again, this will go ahead and affect the battery life over the long run. For those of you that have been following the channel for a while, you may have seen my Legion Go review, and the speakers on the Legion Go are just atrocious in comparison to some of the other handhelds that are out there. Whereas these are actually, they're still upward firing speakers, but they get extremely loud. Here, I'll go ahead and I'll put this up so you can hear. Night and day difference in between this and the Legion Go. In terms of the overall experience of playing on the PlayStation Portal, you are going to get something that is very similar to playing on a PlayStation 5. And this is something that other handhelds that have Chiaki running on it or using the backbone on a cell phone just can't replicate. You aren't going to have the adaptive triggers. You aren't going to have that haptic feedback. And to be honest with you, this kind of feels like it works a little bit better than other options that are out there. Now, one thing that I do want to go ahead and say is that this needs to be running on 5 gigahertz. If you have it on 2.4, it's just going to run into issues. And that is part of the problem that happens with input lag and input latency. Based off of everything that I've seen online, you're going to get anywhere between 50 and 83 milliseconds of latency while you're playing games. So if you're playing fast games like, I don't know, Modern Warfare, or if you're playing any fighting games, I do not recommend this. Part of the reason why I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 on here is because it is an RPG, it's turn-based, it's a little bit slower than what it would be if I were playing something that's like, I don't know, Destiny or whatever it may be. It's just something that you need to take into account when you're playing on this, as it should be. I mean, any sort of streaming device that you have that is streaming onto a server or streaming onto a console or whatever it may be, you are going to have some form of input lag. There's just no way around it. That's just how it is. One of the things that I do like about this is that you can essentially use this as a second controller. So if somebody comes over and you want to go ahead and play and you don't have another controller that's charged, you can go ahead and use this with its larger battery. It'll go ahead and output a second feed. So you're going to get the same feed that's on your television, but you will go ahead and be able to use this as an actual controller, which is relatively awesome. This does also include a gyroscope. So if you wanted to go ahead and play some games that utilize that kind of like Horizon Forbidden West, for instance, then you can get this out and you really won't have to worry too much about targeting with it. In terms of heat, there really isn't that much to be worried about. I was playing for roughly around an hour before I started feeling some heat in the back, but even still, in comparison to something like the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, or even the Legion Go that recently came out, this is extremely cold and quiet. There isn't any fans, as far as I can tell, that kick on when things start to get warm. So like I said, in comparison to the other PC handhelds that are out there, this, which is strictly a streaming device, stays nice and cool. You might be asking yourself, Rudy, why not just get yourself a backbone and call it a day? Well, with the backbone, you're going to be paying $99.99 USD in order to get that, which is half the price of the Portal. And then you also have to go ahead and pay $40 a year if you want to access their gaming hub, as well as 1080p 60 FPS captures, streaming onto Twitch, and other things that are tied behind that paywall. If you don't use a backbone, well, you are essentially stuck with touch controls, and touch controls, well, they suck. We all know that they suck. So at the end of the day, it really just depends on what you want to go in and experience when you're gaming on the go. Obviously, with the backbone, you get much more flexibility and compatibility. Pretty much anything that's on an Android phone or iPhone that accepts a controller input can use the backbone in order to play whatever games you want, whether it's xCloud, Steam Link, or PS Remote Play, or having games that are native onto whatever platform you're on, Android or iOS, or just even games that are emulated on these platforms. And yes, you are going to be sacrificing the haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, and the overall immersion that comes with using a PlayStation DualSense controller. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, using a PlayStation Portal, you are going to have that level of immersion that comes with using a DualSense when you're gaming. Yes, you are going to be restricted to just using the PlayStation 5. Heck, you can't even use a PlayStation 4 with the PlayStation Portal, but it's still something that honestly is kind of somewhat magical, that I can have this experience on the go, albeit with a couple of hiccups here and there, and it still works pretty well. So let's go over our likes and gripes. First and foremost, this is extremely easy to set up. All you have to do is scan a QR code that's there using an app that's in your phone, and you're gonna be playing in a few minutes. There is going to be an initial day one patch that is installed onto your PlayStation Portal, and it takes roughly about 12-ish, maybe 15 minutes to go ahead and get installed. But after that, you're pretty much set and ready to go, and jumping into games is very, very quick and seamless. I love the screen on this thing. It's absolutely gorgeous. The colors, they're vibrant, they pop, and because it's 1080, it honestly looks awesome. I wish that it was an OLED, but I'm okay with this LCD screen. It's really, honestly, very punchy when it comes to the colors. The haptic feedback and adaptive triggers are a must, especially if you want to have this PlayStation experience on the go. There really isn't any other controller that's out there to date that provides that same level of immersion and that same experience that the PlayStation 5 DualSense provides. Battery life is solid because everything is streaming and there's nothing that's actually rendering or happening on the handheld itself. You don't have to worry about battery life that much. I constantly got around 5 to 6 hours of battery life throughout my gaming on this handheld. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to the PlayStation Portal. I don't really understand why I can't stream games from PlayStation Plus onto my PlayStation Portal. And if I could do that, I would love like a workaround where this connects directly onto PlayStation servers and I can experience that on the go. That'll circumvent the whole hooking up my PlayStation Portal to my PlayStation 5 via the internet and then my PS5 connecting to PlayStation servers via the internet. It will reduce latency and lag as well. Also, I don't like the fact that there isn't Bluetooth built straight into this thing. I mean, yes, I get it that they're trying to go ahead and create this whole thing on their own, but it's a proprietary thing. Sony's going to be in charge of everything. It's just Sony trying to pull an Apple-esque move and keep everything in-house. I don't like that. I like the fact that I can go to the store, buy a pair of Bluetooth headphones that I like, and have them connect to whatever handheld supports it. This is just another way of Sony keeping money in their pocket. Obviously, there's a 3.5 millimeter jack, which is nice. I like having options, but forcing everybody to go ahead and buy their proprietary sound or audio technology in order to use this wirelessly kind of sucks. I would rather just go ahead and go with that. Now, I'll be honest with you, I prefer a wired connection over wireless, but I do know that the majority of the people that are watching this channel and most people in the world prefer wireless because of the convenience that's there. I get that there's deals that are signed by companies to get their apps or their streaming services onto the media center on the PlayStation 5, but it sucks that I can't actually stream anything onto my PlayStation Portal. I mean, like, I get it, I understand it, but at the same time, I still wish that I could do it, especially if I'm paying a monthly subscription anyways to Netflix. I would like to be able to watch Netflix on here if I wanted to. Being told that there's some sort of like error and that I just can't do this is kind of a bit of a letdown, especially when this is a streaming only handheld device. So at the end of the day, who is the PlayStation Portal for? Well, I honestly feel like it's for me. I mean, I'm a dad, and there's a reason why I called the DadStation 5 at the beginning of the video. At the end of the day, if I come home from work and my son's watching Disney Plus or my wife is watching one of her television shows on the television, I don't have to kick him off in order to play my PlayStation 5. I can just get my PlayStation Portal, sit down, hang out on the couch, and they can go ahead and talk to me, and I could sit there and I could play Spider-Man if I wanted to, or God of War Ragnarok. Like, I can just play these games without having to worry about interrupting anyone else in my family. And honestly, it's kind of nice. I kind of like that. So if you're a dad, or if you're just somebody that, you know, shares a television with somebody and they might be watching something and you don't want to interrupt them, this is a great option that honestly might work for you if you're willing to go ahead and, you know, play on a smaller screen. Also, make sure that you have good network connectivity. I have a Wi-Fi 6E network and it's awesome. It works great. It works really well. But if you don't have that 5 gigahertz band, you might run into issues. So you want to make sure that it's on 5 gigahertz and that you have a really strong Wi-Fi network in order to allow that bandwidth and processing power to transfer over your network. So what do you guys think about the PlayStation Portal? Is this something that you're interested in? Is this something that you just don't think is worth it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on things. And if you want to hear my thoughts on the PlayStation 5, click this video over here. And if you want to hear my thoughts on the PlayStation 5 DualSense Edge, then click this video over here. And until next time, guys, I will see you on the next one. Peace.